this is one you all can deal with more than I can, because you're on the front lines of this. I have experienced it a few times in my life with some of my friends, and man, it is a gut punch. But there are people right now, they're calling it that they're deconstructing their faith. That's the buzzword, I think it is. And if I'm wrong, y'all can let me know.
Oh, yeah, no,
okay,
that's
right.
That's the word.
Okay, so you got the nuns, the duns, all that stuff, atheists, all that. Somebody who is out there listening right now or watching, there's a good chance they know somebody who's in the middle or is at the end of deconstructing their faith. How can we give them some tools to deal with that? Fire away.
Well, first of all, so we run a YouTube channel and podcast called Trinity Radio, and we have covered a number of deconstruction stories.
Okay.
Most famously, two of the biggest YouTubers out there are Rhett and Link. They run a channel called Good Mythical Morning. And it's a channel where they do a bunch of silly games like you do in a youth group somewhere.
These were Christians at one time?
Well, yeah. And so these guys grew up in Baptist churches in North Carolina, friends their whole lives. Anyone who looked them up on YouTube saw where they had children's Christian songs that they had done. They used to work with Campus Crusade. They were very involved in church. Their churches had revivals. They would go forward, the whole thing. And so they were actually guys that Campus Crusade would bring in to do the music and do the creative side of some of their events. And so they started this channel. They were still Christians. Everything was really popping. They got hundreds of thousands of subscribers, ended up moving to LA and their show, but they never really talked about their Christianity on their show. But I felt good letting my family watch their show because I thought, hey, this is good, this is clean, and I know that these guys are part of our tribe, so to speak. These are brothers in the faith. But they did a podcast where they talked about their deconstruction. And basically, with at least one of them, if not both of them, the reason was because of back to the whole evolution thing, or the age of the earth and all that whole thing. That's what started a trajectory for him that landed him and eventually both of them in a place of hopeful agnosticism, they say. They went through a deconstruction. We covered another guy, John Steingard, who was the lead singer of the Christian rock band Hawk Nelson. And he recently deconstructed. And he's gone on a lot of programs to talk about this. And I've communicated with him actually a little bit. The thing that I think people should understand is it's not unnatural and it's not bad to deconstruct depending on what you mean by that. There's something about coming of age. I was in my early 20s when I finally decided, I had a close friend who was dealing with same-sex attraction. And he had been my friend through high school. He had to decide for himself how that fit with his Christian perspective. And in the end, for him anyway, he determined that the Bible was not okay with him living this same-sex lifestyle. And so it led to a degradation in his faith such that he is an atheist now. And he challenged me, and it rattled me. Not rattled me in the sense that I experienced doubt about my faith, rattled me in the sense that, wait a minute, I need to know what pieces of my worldview I just adopted uncritically and which ones I think are true. And so I'm going to take this thing apart and put it back together again. I never was not a Christian, but I did take my worldview apart and lay it on the table and try each of the pieces and put it back together. And some things changed. For instance, the thing about the age of the earth for me. I'm an old earther. Jonathan's I don't care earther. But I took that apart. That's something that changed. There's a few other things that changed, but more or less the Christianity stayed the same. That's not a bad thing to do. That's a part of coming of age. That's a part of growing up. That's part of becoming a man or a woman. That's a part of having your own faith. Mm-hmm. That's your faith. That's a good thing. What I would encourage people who are deconstructing is, first of all, don't uncritically take the advice of others who have deconstructed, who are out there who are no longer believers. I would encourage people to recognize that deconstructing, it doesn't mean that you take a long jump from this that I was taught growing up, I think now was wrong, so I guess atheism is the way it is. No. You know that God's worked in your life. I mean, you out there, you're that person that's deconstructing. I want to speak directly to you. You know what God's done in your life. You know those moments when you, I'm not a mystical guy, but you felt God in the midst of worship and prayer, and you feel like you got a word from God, and you remember your salvation. And the thing is, you can hold on to that while still testing other aspects of what you believe. And that can be a healthy thing, and you can come out on the other side a stronger person. But to connect it, what I've said to you in another podcast, Chip, I would say, while you're doing this, because I know about you, I'm sure about you. If you're a genuine thinker out there who claims to have been a Christian and had a Christian experience, you've had an encounter with Christ yourself. What I would say to such a person, Chip, is do that in community with brothers and sisters in Christ. Share with them what's going on. Point. And I think you'll come out with a stronger faith in the end.
What do you say to somebody out there listening?
Absolutely, because that ties back to what I said about deconstructing my faith is such a privatized, individualized thing, right? And the church this is a popular thing. This is not happening in a vacuum. That is the buzzword. People are deconstructing. It's so individualized, though. And then when you, like he said, grasp onto their stories, we're responding to them, because one of the things that we've noticed in these deconstructions is they're not happening in community, where I think it's safer to do it in community, but we have to own this as a church because we haven't provided that space where they could deconstruct the kind that he said he went through with his theological, viewpoints, and where am I going to land when I'm done with this? I'm still going to land as a Christian, but I may change here on my view of salvation or age of the earth or whatever. But because we don't provide spaces for that to do in community in the churches, these people are having the privatized deconstruction experiences, and what they are deconstructing, the Christianity that they're deconstructing, is also on us because it's paper thin that we didn't do a good job building them up in the faith. So take a Catholic priest who has an earned doctorate, steeped in 10 to 12 years of Thomist education from top to bottom. After 15 years has a deconstruction, he leaves the faith. To me, he's earned his atheism. The people we've been responding to, you didn't earn that. But it's also because you have the things you're talking through, we can swat like flies, right? Okay. So, but that's again on the church, because not only do we provide a space for people to think through these issues within community, we also didn't give them much to think through or deconstruct, that it was rather easy for them to deconstruct their faith, because the church didn't provide them a framework that was robust enough to have a lot to detangle there. And it should be the struggle of the Catholic priest of 20 years with also an extra 10 years of education, who has to rethink everything to get to that place that took him a long time to deconstruct. These deconstruction stories and these people are doing it over the matter of weeks and months. It should take years to detangle yourself from a robust Christian worldview in order to think it's plausible that God doesn't exist. These people can come to that conclusion because they watched a video about dinosaurs.
Yeah,
and it made them think about something for the first
time.
You know,
you are an American treasure, Jonathan.
Yeah.
So we need to make it.
He earned his atheism.
Yeah, that's right.
Our discipleship should make this nearly impossible for anyone to deconstruct their way out of Christianity, and it should make it accessible to where they can deconstruct their own theological views and find space to maybe adopt a different view than they had prior.
I think